To continue on the focus here, and certainly we've had a number of questions come up around the need to measure the actual trait, and so it's quite timely now that Will will be picking up on that topic. For those of you who haven't met Will, please make sure you do say good day to him before you disappear today. It's important as the relatively new member of the Lemplan team, looking after the Lemplan clients primarily, that he knows you. It's much easier to do business with people when you know the face on the end of the phone, so please make the effort to say good day to Will if you haven't already met him. So I said, Will is a recent member of the sheep genetics team, joined us in December last year, so he's got a couple of months under his belt, and so we'll throw him in the deep end today with you guys to talk to you about improving the collection of reproduction data. A little bit of Will's history. He's recently completed a double degree at UNE in Armidale. That was a Bachelor of Agriculture and a Bachelor of Business. So he's certainly been head down, backside up during his degree to punch out 2 degrees in a 4-year period. Will's also was the recipient of Australian Wool Trust Scholarship, which gave him the opportunity to work across a number of sectors in industry with seed stock producers, wool brokers, stock and station agents, and obviously commercial producers in that network as well. Has given him great field experience. He also worked his way through uni on a support desk with Practical Systems, for those who might use the Stockbook software. If you ever rang the help desk, chances are Will was one of those helpful people on the end of the line helping you sort out your problems. So he's been engaged well and truly in this area during his studies, and now we're pleased to have him on board the sheep genetics team. So Will, if you'd like to come and take the podium and speak with us about improving the collection of reproduction data. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Richard, and yeah, I look forward to meeting you all if I haven't met you yet. It's always interesting seeing what people look like after talking on the phone and emailing them. So, so yeah, what my goal is today is just to work through what sheep genetics are trying to do to sort of help with getting in that data from what you guys are recording and what you're seeing in your paddocks, and helping that and hoping that from what you've seen with Sam and Joe and Daniel yesterday, that there's an opportunity to improve your data quality there for reproduction, and in terms of seeing a dollar value on the amount of effort that you're putting into a trait. I'm sure a lot of your commercial guys that you sell rams to would much like to see a few more lambs out in the paddock. So, yeah, so some of the reasons for what we've been trying to get this mating module out. We really want to improve some of the accuracies that we've got for repro data. By improving these accuracies, you guys are going to be able to make more confident decisions when you're going through and using reproduction as a trait selector. So we also want to be increasing the number of animals that we've got with reproduction breeding values. So, and as well as getting that more of that data coming in so that we can use that for future research like Joe's been doing, and as well as helping you guys learn and work out where you're sitting with your reproduction. We want to gain more data on that trait, so it's quite low heritability. I'll touch on that in a moment. We want to be working out where we need to put our effort in to improve the trait, and it's quite a broad reproduction data that these guys have been talking about today. It includes a variety of traits, so it's hard to be, if you're only recording number of lambs weaned or in that situation, there's a lot of room to improve in terms of what we're now accepting for data quality in the past, so what I'm told. So, and yeah, as a main goal, we're really trying to increase the rate of gain. So we want all these commercial guys and what you're doing as well to be improving how many lambs you're getting on the ground. So that's just a bit of a step back as to why we're trying to do this, I guess. So a few aims as to what we're trying to do. We're really trying to, like, first thing we should look at this and say, well, we're really just trying to cut out all the noise. So out of the data that you're sending in, like we're looking at the environment, we're looking at a whole heap of different factors that are influencing what your reproduction traits are at the moment. So we want to be able to work out, well, okay, it might be this year might be particularly good at fertility, or she might be particularly better at lamb survival or helping that maternal effect. So it's a really, at the moment, it seems like a really shotgun approach as to how we're trying to get reproduction data, but by rolling out this mating module, we're going to be able to sort of hone in on certain specific areas as to where we might need to improve for a particular bloodline or in one flock. So yeah, so low maintenance, we're looking for an animal with, as Sam and Joe have said before, we want an animal with a condition score of 1 at 50 kilos to be getting in lamb. So being able to identify which animals you don't have to put as much effort into and are still getting in lamb. Fetus retention, we want to be finding lambs. If you're scanning and you go through to lambing time and you had her scanned as twins and you're not getting any lambs out of her, some of you might be questioning your scanners, or maybe that is the actual ewe not performing as well as you had hoped. And yeah, lamb survival, as I said before, so we really want to be working out those ewes who are who are putting out twins year on, year out, and yeah, making them more money than a ewe that's going to be dry every second year. So like I said, reproduction, it's got a few key pillars here, and by improving that accuracy of that data that we're recording, by broadening the amount of information we're accepting, we can then start using that to hone in on what might be contributing more so to one particular trait. All right, so a few handbrakes. We've, as we know, reproduction data is sex limited, so not even all the females that we're producing, you guys here in the room are producing it. Not even all of those ewes are going to get recorded. So there's going to be culls, and that sort of information is could be quite useful. But if without that information we can't make as many decisions. It's a later life trait as well, so we've got to wait that 7 months, or if you're merino, maybe waiting 18 months before you find out how a particular ram would perform, or how that ewe is going to perform. So a key thing for this, for you maternal guys or commercial guys, maternal guys, is that if you're wanting to have a ram sale by 18 months of age from your previous drop, or 12 months of age, building up to that in that period, there's an opportunity here for you to be able to start recording scanning data and using that data from the sisters of the rams that you're selling and the progeny and the half sibs of those rams that you used, to be able to then contribute to the reproduction data for that animal. So if they're sharing, if they've got common sires, we can use that to help with the accuracy and stop those yearling number of lambs weaned and number of lambs weaned moving unfavourably. So, and I think a key benefit here is for the merino guys. So up until now, we've been accepting mothering up at, number of lambs born. So if you're mothering up at lambing or mothering up at, and mothering up at weaning, I'm not sure how many merino guys here are doing that, but it's might be impractical for some people. So by taking it a bit further back and being able to record which ewe was scanned in lamb and contributing that to the data, we can then, when you go through and might do a mothering up at weaning time, we can say, well, okay, that ewe was scanned with twins and she's only weaned one. So that's sort of cutting out the noise in what was meant to happen as what has happened. And yeah, low heritability. So we really need to emphasise a lot of selection pressure to be able to move this trait around. So I'll go to that now. So just a few heritabilities for some specific traits across a couple of analyses here. We've got, so working down, we've got birth weight for a heritability of 0.1, so quite low, and I'll touch on that in a moment as well. For P fat, it's upwards of 20 for heritability, and down on number of lambs weaned here, we're really down at the bottom end of heritability. So just reinforcing the fact that if it's a lower heritability, you're going to have to put a greater influence to move it around. So if you're really trying to bump that up, your number of lambs weaned or born, you're going to have to start putting a lot more weight on it. And if you're wanting to put a whole lot more weight on moving it around, you're going to want confidence in how that figure is going to sit when you start selecting your rams based off it. So I just went through the other day and got some a few stats off the merino maternal analysis. So for the maternals, we had 12 animals out of the bit over 1 million that had a number of lamb weaned accuracy of greater than 90%. Given this, and this goes back to 1990 as well, so keying in that that's a later life trait, so as we move on, that accuracy is improving. So the animals that had the higher accuracy tended to be quite a lot older, as you'd expect, so they were, because by the time they got their progeny in. And yes, almost 600 with an accuracy between 70 and 90. Now for the merinos, I thought it was a bit interesting that these 6 that came up for being above 90% accuracy for number of lambs weaned, they were across different sites where the data recorded was of the highest quality, and everything you could imagine was recorded. So just reiterating the fact that if you can record as much as you can about those animals, we can then use that to give you some really high value data. So by recording that information, you are going to get feedback that is valuable. So keep that in mind, that it's not all a waste. So it's really important that you start recording that and sending that in. Yeah, and it was almost 500 for number of lambs weaned. So, and that's out of 1.8 mil. So it'd be good to improve that eventually. And a few more just from the 2010 drop onwards for maternals. There was 6,800 with a 50% accuracy or greater for number of lambs born. And remembering that number of lambs weaned and number of lambs born has a heritability of 0.04, sorry, and that birth weight has an accuracy of 0.1. It's a whole lot easier to go out and just weigh a lamb at birth than to be recording all of this reproduction data. We realise that, but just as a point to make that in the past, you guys have seen that your commercial clients were complaining about having to pull lambs or in that sort of situation. So in the past, there's been movement there, and you've actually gotten somewhere where you're now to a stage of having quite a considerable number of animals with highly accurate birth weights. And by collaborating all that information that everyone does, it's really making a step forward on that particular trait. And hopefully we can do that same thing now for reproduction traits. So getting everyone on board and getting it coming in will hopefully build up to a stage, where we can have the similar situation as birth weight, even though it's a lower heritability. So now, we're looking at recording and allowing information to be contributed to the analysis. So we're looking at more about the U. So as Sam and Joe have said today, we want to know your condition scores at joining and your body weights. So that's all going to help, and the date that you've been doing that. Also want to know a bit more about the length of joining. This is particularly relevant, I think, for the Dorper guys out there that are joining on. Like depending on how long they're going to be putting their rams out for, might mean the difference. Up until now, there hasn't been a difference between a 6 months joining or a 3 week joining. So now we can sort of hone in on okay, that bloodline of ewes are able to get in lamb in a shorter time, so we'll give them a higher merit. And the scanning, the big thing now, we're allowing information to come in for the date of the scan and whether you're doing a wet or a dry scan or whether you're doing multiples. So you send in how many you've got there. And also the scanner name. So if you're consistently using the same guy, that'd help us in working out who's out there measuring them all, and we can use that later on as well. So just using Pedigree Master here, I know Practical Systems and Sapien are on board as well. They've got this same interface. I don't have the time to go through every single program, but just going through the aspects of it. So now, we're now recording your body weight and condition score. So condition score is to within 0.25. So I'll probably go back. You guys probably want to have a bit more of a look at that. So we're working through we've got your date and your group. Really important to remember these groups as we go along. I'll touch on those in a sec. So if you're natural joining, you want to know the length of the mating. AIing, it's obviously easier. And we also want to start knowing your condition score of the years to do like Sam has said today, and Joe, to work out where they're going to be heading it for based off a condition score, and hopefully using that in the future as well to then work out consistent patterns there. So management groups, moving just to this slide. So along the way, we've got all these groups sections here, as you can see. So that group field is for up until that date. So up until that scanning date, what group has that ewe been in? So to be able to evenly compare them amongst themselves, we need to know if one's been put in a run on an oats paddock and then it's got a condition score of 4 versus an animal that might have been out in the rocks and knocked back a bit. So we really need to know, to be comparing everything equally, we need to know what group they're from and how they've performed within that group. So just a key, keep in mind the whole way along that every time you see this group for preg scan and for lambing result, we want to know where it is up until that date. So if you're going to go through and scan and separate your twins and your triplets and your singles, we need to know what you've done up until lambing. So we need to know that. So also with the scanning, we've got the option for you can put in how many if you're doing multiples or if you're just doing wet and dry. So my guess is if you're going to be paying the money to get someone to come in and do a scan, you may as well just pay the extra 20 cents or 30 cents, I think it is, to get multiples. Might not be practical in all cases, but I really highly consider, can't recommend enough, highly consider doing that as a form of improving your repros. So preg scanning. So we've already had a discussion with the Pregnancy Scanners Society last December, and when we brought it up in the room, there was no hesitation from people to go towards a accreditation system. They want to be able to recognise themselves in the industry as well, so they're all on board for that, and we want to be able to put in eventually one day a registered number. So if they're a preg scanner, they can then just put in their number and we can then use that as well in our system. So like I said with the groups, we really need to know if you're going to be separating animals based off twins or triplets or anything like that. So if you consider in your mind that it is unfair to be comparing these two groups, then that's when you need to be changing them around. And that's something that you guys have to do. We can't make that decision for you. And as I touched on before, if you're going to be wetting drying, might be worth consider to start looking at multiple scanning to help putting that in. I'll just quickly go through this for people using Pedigree Master. If you're looking at using a bulk entry, as many of you are, I guess, there's you can offer and go through and duplicate these animals. So you can go through and enter your sire that you've used, the date you put him in and out, and just to speed up that process for you. We are working on getting import for it, but it's just a little bit further down the pipeline at the moment. So, so you're moving in, and you can bring up your list of recent females that you've used, so you don't have to go through every single female in your entire book there. You can just bring up the ones that you've used recently. And again, just for the Pedigree Master users out there, we can now populate your main database with those animals that are in your reproduction module, so in your mating module. So if you go through the mating module and enter in your dead at births or your dries, just go through into the setting, utilities, and hit populate main database, and that'll bring across those animal IDs into the main database, and you won't have to go through and double enter it all. So, and vice versa as well. If you're someone who likes to go through and enter in your dead at birth through the main usual system that you guys have been doing up until now, that's fine. You can just enter in the dam, sire, conception method, birth weight, all of that, and then just hit the populate mating module, and it'll switch across. So trying to make things easier there for you. Just on the ewe and lamb status point, we've got a few options here for you to pick. We want to know this information. There's no set date. It's not specific to a time when you have to record this. But we'd like to know, if it's unknown, leave it blank. So if you're not sure what the ewe's up to, or the lamb at the moment, so this is for ewes and lambs. So we've got live there, so that's for if the lamb obviously hits the ground alive and runs around dead, didn't make it quite. Sold, so that's if you're sold, means if you're getting rid of the ewe before lambing. So we can then use, if we're going to be finding out that, okay, this ewe was scanned twins, come weaning time, she hasn't had anything, instead of just leaving that field as a 0, we'll just disregard the information post lambing, so we're not going to be giving a false image for that ewe. Fertility and dry, same thing. So if you've got a ewe that's died or she's gone dry, we're just trying to help work out, well, why haven't we heard anything about that ewe after birth or weaning? So that's the method behind that. Couldn't find her. Miss Muster. Yeah.
It really happens, and then they come up again and you put them in the head.
Right, I'll touch on that when we get to questions, if you like. So yeah, still recording your dead at births. Really key point to take out of that. So we still want you to be telling us if there's a ewe that's had a dead lamb or two. So we really need to be knowing that information to use this mating module best. And like I said, with the dries, we don't have to be recording that information per ewe. If you're going to go through the pregnancy scan and say she was dry, that's getting put across automatically for you. So yeah, there's also a point that someone made yesterday that you could be using this if you wanted to do a commercial enterprise. So if you had your ewes that were culls and you're still able to give us a full pedigree, you can still be using that information based off on how well your sires are going to perform. So if you've got a couple of rams that you're not sure what their repro data is going to sit at, it doesn't have to be the best ewe out there. We can test those bloodlines just on a commercial system. So all we need is just that scanning data, the lambs born or weaned, ideally all of them. So, but if the only thing you can do is scan them at weaning and then mother them up scan them for pregnancy and then mother them up at weaning time and tell us which ewe had which lambs and how many, we can then use that to sort of fill in the gaps a bit. But ideally we want to be knowing how many she was meant to have when she was scanned, how she's had at lambing, and then how she's performed at weaning. So finishing up, we'd like you to try and upgrade your software system as soon as you can to start recording this. If you have any old data on your matings or on your condition scores or on your body weights, start sending that in. Like if you can get it into a file and send it in to us, we can really start using that now that we've got that space to put it in. So keep that in mind if you're on your way home. If you can think of any old data you've got, then make sure you get it sent in. And just bear in mind those groups as well. So start sending in your scan data, your body weights and condition scores, and your joining information. So I know it's been harped on a lot, but the more information we get, the more we can give back to you. So keep it coming in, and now that we've got this space to put it in, we hopefully can use it as best we can. So thanks.
Thank you, Will. Obviously, more data, but very important data to address reproduction. We'll start with the question from Barry and then on to Tom. Thank you.
Yeah, that was a good presentation, Will, but you seem to still think that we love punching data into computers.
Haven't met anyone that doesn't.
And I find it hard to believe that when I put an animal in and you enter it, she's had a twin and reared a single, that you can't use that data to work out that she's got a DAB. And if we put all our joining data in, that you somehow assume that we're not going to lamb all those ewes down, that you've got to put all the extra data in. You can't assume that we've joined those ewes, we're going to lamb those ewes down, and the ewes that haven't got a lamb record to them would probably dry.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that send information in, and if the only way we can get everyone on the same page is by saying you have to put in your dead at birth, and because not everyone is up to the same recording quality that you are, Barry. It's sort of if someone's going to be there are people out there who record a lambing system of twins and then don't really want to follow up and see if that was a rearing type of twins as well. So, and yeah, hopefully that answers your question there.
Thanks, Will. Tom Hook. Just on a basic, like you suggested, the basic model for the merino breeders is you can scan for multiples, mother them up a few weeks into life, and then you can get your rear type at weaning. So we're missing, and it's just a reality, we're missing a true birth type. Do we enter that as assuming it's equal to preg scan, or do we enter a birth type when we really don't know for sure, and just allow the assumptions to be made based on other information we've delivered by the guys in the top office?
Yeah.
Do we leave that blank, or do we fill it in as best we can?
Well,
I'll jump in if you want, Will. First, I'd just like to congratulate Will on getting through that. If someone had put me up here in front of this crowd after 3 months on the job, I would have been panic-stricken. But I think it was a good job done. So, Tom, I think we, obviously preg scan results and birth type are very strongly correlated. If you are preg scanning and you're not doing lambing rounds, then just put in that preg scanning information, and we will use that because it's highly correlated. We'll be able to do that, the fertility component of the analysis quite happily. So if you are preg scanning and doing lambing rounds, you can put both in. Obviously, there's going to be a bit of redundancy there. We don't need both bits of information, but it will also give us a way, if you're doing that, of going round the back door a little bit, just to keep an eye on, do we need to run pregnancy scanner accreditations and so on? What's the accuracy of some of that information? Important to say, just because those two bits of information are different, doesn't mean that it's all the preg scanner's fault. I think we've all been there drafting years up at preg scanning, and one's gone over the rail and then one lambs in the dry paddock. It's all the scanner's fault. But it will give us some ability to say how effective is some of that information that we're recording.
Thanks, Hamish.
Thanks, Hamish. Will, we might just throw to the screen behind you if you could address those, please.
Yeah, so the YouTube videos, that's all a go. Everyone's about technology now, so we're going to try and get some videos made and webinars on how to use it. We're working at that process, so yeah, that's a great way, Craig, so well done. Heritability, so yes, it is really low, and that's the reason I made my point about the birth weight. So, it's around 0.1 as well, and it's quite low, but, if in the past you guys have seen, or you guys you're selling onto as well, have seen there an area to improve efficiency there. So, no one likes going and pulling lambs. So in the past, everyone's worked on birth weight. So I put it to you as why can't we do the same thing for a number of lambs weaned? We've got the information now to be able to improve that trait. We just need some more data coming in. So that's why I'll put it at that. So, but there is room to move. So Hamish has probably got something better and smarter to answer that. But
No, I was just going to add to that by saying, there's often the perception out there in industry, because it's a low heritability trait, don't worry about selecting for it genetically, just handle it with feeding. That's not the case. There's a lot of variation for genetics for reproduction traits. The fact that it's low heritability means that it is hard to identify the animals that are carrying good genes. So that's why we need to have these better ways of collecting the relevant information and being able to account for all of those environmental factors that influence it so that we can calculate reliable breeding values.
Thanks, Will and Hamish. I'm going to bring this